Hello there, I'm Marley Bird for Yarnspirations.com. In this video, I will teach you how to make a knitted poppy. For this pattern, you need some worsted weight yarn in a red and black. You need a pair of size 5 or 3.75 millimeter knitting needles, a tapestry needle, and a good pair of scissors. This is a free pattern available at Yarnspirations.com. I've put a link in the video description box right below this video for your convenience. Go ahead and grab that pattern and your materials, and I'll walk you through step by step everything you need to know to create a very nice knit poppy. The pattern instructs us to cast on a total of 52 stitches. Now, I like the long tail cast on, so in order to make sure my tail is long enough, I will wrap my yarn around my needle a total of 52 times, and at that point I will stretch out my hand a little bit more past the 52, and I will place a slip knot at that join, and it's about right there. Okay, so I take all the yarn off my needle, I give myself a little bit extra, and then I place my slip knot right here. Place the tail in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and your middle finger, and when you come back up, cross over. Rotate your hand, go underneath the front loop, grab that back loop, and pull it off your fingers. You now have a loop that you can place on your needle. Spread apart the legs, these are the legs now, and you have a slip knot on your needle. For the long tail cast on, you will take the tail and wrap it around your thumb. Take the working yarn, wrap it around your finger, and you'll position the yarn just like so, very much like a slingshot. Take your needle, go to the bottom of your thumb and go up your thumb. Swivel over to the tip of your finger and go down your finger. You have a little opening that's made right there by the yarn wrapped around your thumb. You will swivel that needle through that opening and let the yarn fall off your thumb. Pull the legs apart and you have another stitch on your needle. Reset your yarn and do it again. Up the thumb, down the finger, through the window, off the thumb. You want to make sure as you're pulling those so that they're snug on the needle, you don't make them so tight that they cannot move. You can use any cast on you wish to make this poppy. I just prefer the long tail cast on. If you have a different cast on you prefer, go ahead and do that to cast on your 52 stitches. Once you get all of the stitches cast onto your needle, take a second and recount just to make sure you do have 52. Once you have the count correct, go ahead and jump into what would be the first wrong side row. We will be doing a total of 8 rows. This part of the instructions indicate we're supposed to knit 10 stitches. So I will begin knitting these stitches by going in from the left side of the stitch, through the stitch to the right, yarn over, pull my needle back through with that yarn over on it, and let my stitch jump off. In, around, out, off. In, around, out, off. I want to make sure that I get 10 knit stitches here. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once you have 10 knit stitches, bring your yarn between your needles and purl by going in from the right side of the stitch, out the left, but in front, yarn over your needle, bring your needle back out the stitch and off. In, around, out, off. In, around, out, off. Those are your purls. Now we repeat this all the way down the row. When you get to the end of the row, you'll finish with those purl 3s. Go ahead and turn your work, and you'll be on the first wrong side row. For me, I like to take a minute and I like to tick off the fact that I finished one right side row. The instructions indicate we have 8 rows, so I just want to make sure that I am completing all 8 rows, and I always forget, so I like to use a post-it note and a pencil or a pen to make a tick mark after I finish a row. On this wrong side row, we begin with a knit 3, and you'll notice that you are actually looking at 3 knits. Then bring your yarn between the needles and you will purl 10. And again, you are looking at 10 purls. So essentially, you will be knitting your knits and purling your purls. So if you lose count, simply pay attention to what the stitch is that you're working into it. If it has a little bump in the front of it, just like that one, then it is a purl. If it looks like a V, just like this one here, then that is a knit. So bring your yarn between the needles and you will knit. I'm looking at a bump, bring my yarn between my needles, and I purl. When you get to the end of the row, turn your work, and you will have completed 2 of the 8 rows, which means you have to repeat those last 2 rows 3 more times. And that completes my 8th row. So as I turn my work, I'm looking at the right side of my fabric. I can go ahead and cut my tail, leaving at least a 10-inch tail. You can leave it a little bit longer if you want, but I would not go shorter, okay? Now, with this side facing, we are going to grab the black yarn and make sure that you leave a tail about the same length of the black yarn, okay? So make sure you leave your tail about the same length. Pick up your knitting needle, and now we are going to start knitting with the black yarn, okay? And what we are going to do is work a decrease all the way across this row. So I'm going to go nice and slow so you can see how this works. You're going to take your right hand needle and going into the second stitch in from the tip of the needle, so the second stitch in from the tip, you insert from left to right. So I'm going through the second one and the first one now. I will yarn over my right hand needle with my new yarn, so with my black yarn. And then when I take my right hand needle through those stitches, I'm pulling through the black yarn right there, and I let the red yarn jump off. Okay? And I'm going to do that all the way down the row. So now I have these 2 stitches near the tip. I go to the second one, insert from left to right, and then continue on through the first one, yarn over my needle, and pull that yarn over through those stitches and off. So you can see I have 2 stitches now on my right hand needle. It might be a little difficult to see because it is black yarn, but when we make a poppy, we want to make sure we have red and black. So I'm going to work all the way down this row with these knit 2 togethers. After you do the knit 2 together on the last 2 stitches, you should have a total of 26 stitches on your needle. You will now turn your work and you are looking at the wrong side, and you will simply purl all of these stitches all the way back. As you purl that last stitch, it might look a little bit loose. Simply pull your tail a little bit and it'll tighten it up nice and snug. When you're finished with that row, turn your work and you'll notice that everything's really starting to come together with those knit 2 togethers. But now on this next row, we work a decrease that gets rid of 2 stitches instead of just 1. Let me show you how that works up. Hopefully you're able to see how all of these stitches look even with the black yarn. I'll do my best to let you see here. When we work this next stitch, which is a decrease, we are going to slip this first stitch. We are going to knit these 2 together, and then we're going to pass this slip stitch over top of the resulting stitch from that one. So I will slip this first stitch as if to purl. Then I will knit these 2 together, which is exactly what we've been doing all along. So I'll knit them together. Now I'm going to grab this first stitch that I did and have it jump up and over that resulting knit 2 together, very much like a bind off. So that's one stitch finished, okay? So now we repeat that. I slip one as if to purl. I knit two together. And I have the back stitch jump up and over that front stitch, which was the slip stitch over the knit two together. Okay, I'm going to do this all the way down the row. Slip one, knit two together, pass the slip stitch over top of that knit two together stitch. Slip one, knit two together, slip stitch up and over the knit two together. When you get down to the last two stitches, we will simply knit those two together. So there is no slip stitch. We just knit those two together. Now we're going to cut the yarn, leaving about 10 inches again on this side. We're going to thread this yarn onto or into our tapestry needle. If you pinch the yarn around your tapestry needle and give it a tug, and then wiggle that eye right down there, you can thread your tapestry needle very easily. And what I want you to do is going into each one of these stitches right here, you're going to just thread them off of the needle. So I'm just going through each one, I'm inserting as if to purl, and I'm threading them off of the needle. And then I'm pulling my tail through those stitches, okay? So I'm pulling my tail through those stitches. Can you see that? And as I do this, I will pull it nice and snug. The instructions say to pull tight. Okay. Then it says to go ahead and use the yarn that's on my needle to sew up the black portion of the poppy together. So I will make sure these are nice and snug still, and then I'm going to do my best. Let's see here. I'm going to come over here to the opposite side and push my needle through. Make sure my tail from this side has been pulled a little bit snug so that stitch isn't loose. And I'm just going to get these pulled together. I want to make sure that the poppy center is not open, so I'm threading my yarn through just to make sure it's nice and pulled tight, just like a drawstring would be. Pulling it nice and snug. Can you see that? Right here, I'm just taking my tail and I'm threading it through those stitches again and giving it a nice pull. Once the center of the poppy is pulled nice and tight and seamed together, you can use the tail that you left 10 inches long to then match stitch the poppy together for the red portion. I've gone ahead and I have the tail right here and it is threaded onto my tapestry needle. And we have an edge here that has some purl stitches and an edge here that has knit stitches. So what I'm going to do is I have the right side facing me, and I'm going to just work along the edge here and pick up 2 strands along the side. Give that a tug. Come over here to the corresponding side or the corresponding stitches on the opposite side and pick up 2 strands. Let's make sure I get 2 strands. Let's see here. There we go. Come back over here, go in where you came out. Go down and pop up 2 strands. Over here, go in where you came out and pop up so that you get 2 strands on your needle. And you just keep going like this. 2 strands at a time, back and forth from one side to the next. And the piece will be seamed together. When you get down to the very end, make sure everything's pulled together nice and neat. It looks so pretty. Then you can take this end here, you can finish it with a figure 8. Just to get that nice and pulled together nicely. Pop the tail to the opposite side. You have this nice sort of bulky seam here that you can weave in this tail and your beginning tail. But the instructions indicate you're supposed to leave these tails in the back long. You're supposed to leave a 10-inch tail of both the black and the red. So we're supposed to leave a 10-inch tail here and with this one. So what I'm going to do is, because I cut it longer, I'm just going to bring this all the way down and let my tail come down here, and I will leave it for the poppy to be attached to something, sewn to something, appliqued to something. So I will leave both my red and my black tails right down there. So now I have my tails left and I have a poppy made. Pretty nice, huh? Now you know how to make a knit poppy. I'm Marley Bird for Yarnspirations.com.